Hi, team. Welcome to the Escape Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Today, we walk through Keith's recent preview of the next developer roadmap, and we do a little bit of our own irresponsible expects. I'm going to start that over. Hi, team. Welcome to the Escape Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Today, we walk through Keith's recent preview of the next developer roadmap, and we do a little bit of our own irresponsible speculation on what's coming. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 204, who is here. I'm messing the whole thing up. I don't have a thing to say for him today. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 204. And
Hi,
with me,
buddy.
as always, is Seema. Hi, Seema. How's it going?
Hey, Max. It is going okay. Pretty good. I like summer. Um, this weekend, SWTOR, it's 2 days ago, we had our MFN, and we went and killed the eyeless, which we're actually getting pretty good at. We had a full group of 16 or 15 or 16, but we went 16 man. And then we went up the elevator and started killing the world bosses, and we did that 2 or 3 times, which I recommend, by the way. Lots of CXP for that. Um, and then tonight, we had our ops team, and we went and killed some robots on IOCAF, the Tithe, and then the sisters. And then we went to Dread Palace and took a shot at hard mode, which we haven't done for a long time, so we were a little bit on the rusty side. But we kind of remembered the hard mode bestia encounter. We did not get her down though, but it was good to try something that wasn't just a breeze. So it was
Yeah,
fun. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. So yeah, how are you doing?
I am doing great. So, as you can see by the quality of the intro of the podcast today. No, yeah, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun in MFN, and that was really good. And you're absolutely correct. I would recommend doing those outside world bosses when the Rakul event comes around, because you get these super rare world boss CXP packs each time you kill one of those world bosses. So you can kill them a couple times, and each time you'll get one of those CXP packs, which are quite significant. So that was really cool. And we killed the eyeless. That's always cool. Tonight was my first night getting the sisters dead, so I was pretty happy about that. And we one-shot the sisters. On story mode, that's a relatively reasonable fight, so I'd recommend everyone to, if you're worried about it, or you're not sure if your group can do it, it's pretty reasonable to do on story mode. There's a lot of the hard mode mechanics, the veteran mode mechanics that you can ignore, and it's just pretty fun. You can get in there and you can get it done.
It's
Um,
colorful.
it's colorful. It's another one of those really sort of sci-fi technology environments that I really like, and that's one of the reasons I really like Star Wars, the old Republic. I like this MMO. Is it's not everything's not the same fantasy sort of environments, the dungeons, the caves that we're going and fighting things in. You don't get many MMOs where this is the kind of place with this green lit, the green rhombus that we're fighting the sisters on, and the flashing lights, and all of the sci-fi artwork. I really like this kind of theme. I like it in Terra from Beyond, and we'll see by the end, this could be my new favorite operation. So, in terms of scenery and artwork. So,
Yeah,
great
I'm
great
looking forward
job
to
by
the
them.
next boss.
Yeah, so am I, which we haven't heard about. We haven't I don't think they've talked about who the next boss is, even in private testing yet. So I'm interested to hear that story too. So yeah, it was quite a good ops night and a good mandatory fun night. And other than that, I was just flying a bunch of GSF again. And I know there's discussions going on in the forums. They had a thread up in the forums asking for people's feedback on GSF input. Continue to provide that feedback in there. I'm glad that they've got it on their radar for things that they're going to focus on later in the year.
Cool.
With that, I think we can talk more about the news.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
So not a lot of news this week, but a couple things. The big news we're gonna talk about for the main segment, but the little bits of extra news that we wanted to throw out there. We did get the final date for the ending of the Nar Shaddaa Nightlife event. It will end with the game update 5.4, which is confirmed for August 22nd. So if you don't have the Pigman, as everyone is reminding me that that's what I call it now. If you don't have the Pigman, you've got until August 22nd. You got a little less than a month to go and try to get your very own Pigman.
Why are we wasting our time doing a podcast? We should be at the casino.
I know we should be gambling, but it's not only the Pigman. What else? What else could we be getting in the future in terms of companions, Seema?
Oh, wow, that is a segue, which I just ruined by. Okay. So the question was asked on the forums: will we ever get Darth Hexxit as a companion? And the response was, yeah, we think so, but we just haven't figured out how to do it yet. So Darth Hexxit, if you remember, was the companion from the DVL event that we did not get since we got the light side companion. So Darth Hexxit will be available at some point in the future.
Yeah, that's a good reminder of the DVL. If you did the DVL and you did all of the requirements to get the companion, you got the light side companion. I don't think I ever got her on this character. I did on other characters, but I think I was waiting because the first time it was released, you could get her, but you couldn't finish her little side mission. So I don't think I have her unlocked on my mercenary even. What's her name? I forgot her name, but she's the blue Chiss Jedi. But because the light side won the DVL event, we never, the deal was whichever side won, light versus dark, that's the companion that everyone who participated would get. But we know that they did a bunch of art and design on Darth Hexxit, who is the dark side. So hopefully we will get that at some point, and hopefully we won't have to only pay for it. but that could be one outcome. In the cartel market, but we could get it some other way too, which would be exciting.
Master Ranos.
Master Ranos, that's her name. She's quite serious.
I personally, and we were talking about this in our ops group, I'm personally fine with that. If they want to release that other companion, I think it's fine.
Yeah, however they release it, I would be fine with. If
Yeah.
we can get it for free somehow, that would even be better. How about the events? I think we're mostly to the end of our event schedule. How does that look in Seema?
Yeah, I mean, the Rackle event, which is ongoing right now, was basically the last piece of it. And like you already mentioned, the Nar Shaddaa Nightlife will end on August 22nd.
So I'm hoping that they refill their events page on the website and let us know when they're going to redo, because I'm sure everything's going to come back. They've been on a pretty regular schedule of updating the Gree and the Rat Ghouls and Bounty Contract. So I imagine that will continue. Hopefully we'll get updated dates on when those are all coming back as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to like an August post, because this was basically a July post when they made the events, so
Right.
it should be coming soon.
In guild and community news, starting with the greater SWTOR community, certainly wanted to give a shout out this week to SWTORista. So if you don't know who SWTORista is, she is an influencer and podcaster. Oh, that was a little blip of a part of one of her. So she's been a guest on lots of other podcasts. She also does a YouTube channel with a really excellent series called SWTOR Academy. And in SWTOR Academy, the kind of segments that we do, she does a really well-produced version of that kind of segment that can tell you lots of details about the game and give you hints and tips and walkthroughs of various elements of what is it like to join a guild, how should you prepare to do ops, and et cetera, how do you get endgame gear. Her latest podcast video on YouTube was all about the influencer community. So in the beginning, she talks a little bit about influencers and what the influencer program really is. And then she goes through almost every possible influencer that's part of the program today, including us. So that was really nice of her. She's quite the champion of the SWTOR community in general. She's very active on Reddit. And in my view, she has made the SWTOR subreddit about an order of magnitude better, nicer place to be than it ever was before.
A place worth going to.
So certainly check her stuff out. I think that, this is a great opportunity to see her introduction to all of the influencers, and for you all to get an introduction to SWTORista in general. So thank you, SWTORista. You are the best. What else do we have in guild and community news?
We have this. I see this in my notes. Happy birthday, Benori. So that's one thing.
Yes, absolutely. So one of our guildies, Benori, has a birthday today. Benori does a little streaming on Twitch on occasion and is in the chat room right now. So happy birthday, Benori. That's going on.
Yeah. Our Sunday night ops team, thanks to Marcus, is up and running. I wonder if they have a name. He can maybe tell us. He's in the chat room as well.
Yes, they do have a name. Marcus needs to do that shout out, but it's something troopers, something super trooper something. So we'll come back to that, but yeah, that's a fun little ops team.
That means we basically have 4 ops teams plus MFN, which is pretty hot. So we have, and I don't know, is the Sunday night team Imp or Pub?
It's Imperial, but it is called Death Star Troopers. So there we go. We got the name.
Okay, Death Star Troopers.
And yeah,
it could be on either side.
Our 4th ops team. So that is excellent. So Marcus did a great job of identifying the fact, and this is what you need to do within a guild to get an ops group going is find a time that there's a gap and that people wanted to get together and have some fun. And we weren't doing much on the weekends. We had stuff going on lots of other nights during the week, but nothing much on the weekends. And people did want to get together, and there was critical mass. So Marcus said, does anybody want to run ops on the weekends? And then everyone else pretty much said, well, you spoke up. you get to run it. You get to organize it. So that's what happened, and Marcus did a good job of getting that group together, getting everyone to say yes, I'll be there, and they had their first run on Sunday. So, congrats, guys!
Death Star Troopers, that's awesome. Also, do you want to talk about this Guild Summer Event?
Yes. Do you want to sort of introduce it?
Well, every year AIE, the Greater Guild, does this event called Summer of Love, and the way it has panned out in recent years is that during certain nights of the week, there's events in all the individual games. And this year on Wednesday night is when we'll have the one event that's across all games, which is Remembrance Night. So on that Wednesday night next week, we'll be on Alderaan in the Jurian Mountains for Remembrance, if you want to take part in that. We'll probably have something special going on in MFN on Tuesday night, yet to be announced. Some games and some giveaways. And yeah, what am I leaving out?
No, I think that's it. So it does, AIE is a cross-game guild, so it also happens in all the other games that we have. There'll be events, I know, at least in Final Fantasy and WoW, and maybe also in LOTRO. You know what we should do in LOTRO is get the band back together. So one of the events,
say that.
One of the events we've done in LOTRO, if you've never played Lord of the Rings online, there's an in-game music system where you can take basically sort of MIDI files and load them into the game system and play instruments with custom music tracks. So my dwarf has been part of a band, and I never leveled it up to max level. I never have done much besides getting back into Lotro and playing it as part of a band for AIE on occasion. But yeah, so the greater AIE Guild doing events in all of the games, that gets really fun. There will be a few events in Warcraft, a couple events in Final Fantasy. We'll have stuff in Star Wars. It's a great fun thing to check out. We do it every summer. Otherwise, I think we are still on track for Mandatory Fun Night. It will be our Tuesday next week will be the summer event for the guild. I think the following week then we'll be back into a Republic night. Mm-hmm. Because we switch back and forth.
Next week, which will be August 1st, still on the imp side. And then the week after that, August 8th, will be on pub side.
Excellent. I'm hoping I'm there. I've missed the last couple. I've missed 2 weeks out of the last 10, and they've both been the last 2 pub nights for MFN. So I hope I get to get back in there and play on my trooper. Cause
I hope so too.
That's where I focused my CXP bonus in the past.
Yeah, you did all
weeks.
that work to gear him up. Yeah.
Right. So he's all ready to go. All dressed up and nowhere to go. So hopefully I'll be able to get in there for that.
And yes, we are in the Rat Ghoul event right now. So Conquest this week is Rat Ghoul Resurgence on Tatooine. The notable things about this is you get points for killing the Eyeless one time, but you can kill those world bosses. Wait, can you kill them multiple times? You can for CXP, but I'm not sure about Conquest. But yeah.
Are we still in Rat Ghoul? I guess we are. Yeah. I keep thinking because now we've switched to to Thursday night. So yeah, we just killed the Eyeless on Tuesday. So bunch of points you can get for killing the Eyeless, and all of the Rackle related events. Killing a bunch of the Rackle Resurgence is on Tatooine. So if you go there and you kill 250 of anything on Tatooine, you get a bunch of points for that. Yeah, get your Conquest points. And certainly, as always, if you are not in AIE or not in any guild or not in the right guild, you can join our guild. And that's sort of why we do this podcast. So if you need guild information, you can find us always on aie-guild.org. You can come find us in-game. If you look up on the guild website, you can find access to our Discord. You can jump in there and talk to Seema and I or any of our other officers in Star Wars, and we can get you an invite that way. Or you can get on Jedi Covenant and jump in our custom chat channel /cjoinaieLFO on the Republic or the Imperial side. We're not on both sides every night, but you can catch us in there every once in a while. A lot more often on the Imperial side, but definitely Mondays on the Republic side, and I switch back and forth quite a bit, flying my starships, and get an invite that way. And we would love to have you in there. And certainly, thank you to the chat room. Happy birthday, Benori. Thank you to everyone who helped us pick the title for this podcast today. Reminded me of what I should be doing and helping us get set up for the podcast and get broadcasting. I will talk to all of you after the show, and certainly that's one of the best parts of the show too. So thanks, chat room. And with that, we can get into our segment about the future.
Difficult to see. Always in motion is the future.
Okay, to kick us off, we did get a note from Keith this week. And the note from Keith, to be clear, is a preview of some highlights of what will be coming in the next roadmap. The roadmap will be focused on sort of another quarter. It'll be like a 90-day roadmap. And what Keith decided to do was, as he did last time, put out a pre-post and say, they're working on it. It's not ready yet. It'll be a few weeks before it comes out, but here are some of the highlights. So we're going to go through those highlights, and then we're going to go through some of the feedback, and then we're going to go through Keith's note about the feedback and and why some of the feedback was interesting and good and some of the feedback was quite terrible. But we'll talk about all of that. I think one of the key things, as you are sort of getting the sense here, that I'm expressing is this was a preview and it's some highlights. So this isn't everything that will be in there. What we're going to do also between Seema and I is a little bit of speculation of what we think it means, what else we think might come in a roadmap, or what we think we might get but by the end of the year. That's all part of this, but they haven't announced that yet. And what we talk about and what Keith put in his post is the update, even what's coming in the release for August 22nd. It's not limited to this necessarily. So there will potentially be more things. These are some highlights. Okay. Enough caveats. Are we clear on that?
What was that second part again?
Yeah. What was the middle part? So a couple things that they announced. Crisis on Umbara is definitely something that's coming soon. This will be a new Flashpoint that's going to be released. The Planet of Umbara is going to be released. We did get a little bit of a notice that was coming. We heard about that a little bit. Umbara is going to be added into the mix. We heard about that before. If you're not familiar with that planet has shown up in the extended universe already. It's shown up in the animated series, and it's a pretty interesting setting for new things to be happening. So the story that we've started on Iocath is going to continue on Umbara. And one of the things that they're going to be adding, which they were explicit about in this update, was there's going to be a new Flashpoint. One of the controversial parts of the notes that Keith brought up about this particular Flashpoint was they are thinking about, in Master Mode specifically, of putting in a gear limit. So that you can't queue up for a Master Mode Flashpoint without hitting a particular gear limit. That gear limit that they initially put in Keith's post, and I think they're already thinking about maybe it's a little bit too high, but initially they said 242 gear limit. You can't queue up for Master Mode Flashpoints without being at least on average to around 242 for your gear limit. So if you look at your gear pieces, I'm mostly in 240, 240. I think I'm almost all 246, 248, except maybe one piece. So I'm certainly above that limit. My average would certainly be significantly above that limit. The question is 242 a little bit too high for Master Mode Flashpoints or not? So what are you thinking? What were your thoughts on this so far, Seema?
Well, I'm kind of stuck because can you queue for Master Mode Flashpoints in the group finder?
So yes, you can. So there's two ways to get into them. One is queuing. You can queue directly for Master Mode Flashpoints, and I think the main way you do that is with /G, when you can queue for Flashpoints, especially when it's the bonus of the day. If you do a Control G, you bring up your command interface, you click on Master, and you're queuing.
This is how often I
them
run
that way.
Flashpoints, because when I look at the actual group finder tool, it's not in there. But I see what you're saying. It's on the Galactic command menu.
And
under
Master Mode
Flashpoints.
Master Mode is really interesting to people because you get a lot of command XP for running Master Mode Flashpoints. So if you're going to be doing Flashpoints and you can hack it at the Master Mode level, you want to be doing it at the Master Mode level because you're getting a ton of CXP. However, when you queue up for a Master Mode Flashpoint and someone who isn't, is not sure of it and maybe is just confused and, is in not 230 gear, or, maybe they're in 192 gear and they accidentally queue into Master and don't realize what they're doing, that can get frustrating for people that are trying to queue up for those and just trying to get some done randomly with the queue.
Yeah, I don't see them. I don't see how they can do this because right now there's no way for you to know if your gear averages out to 242 unless you look at it and do your own math, right? So
yes. That's true. So I think the speculation was that they would be adding this as a display into your character sheet. So you would
Yeah, they
be
would
be
need
getting an
to,
eye
but
level.
that's introducing a whole thing.
Yes, it is.
I'm
What do you
not
mean by
against
that?
it. I'm just
So
what do I mean by it?
explain that. I mean, yeah. I mean, it
That's
is
something
sort
we
of
have never
interesting.
had in SWTOR is that well, I guess it depends on if other people can see it too, but if someone can see the average of your gear very easily, then it makes it easy for them to decide whether or not they want you to go with them on their endeavors, whether it's flashpoints, uprisings, or operations.
Right.
And
So
sometimes that results in, um, you know, behavior.
friction. Right.
Friction. Good one.
So right. So this exists in other games, the ability to very quickly see an average gear rating. Now, if you're close to a character in game, you can still inspect them and look at their individual pieces of gear and see what they're wearing. That exists in the game today. What you don't have today is the ability to just very quickly at a glance look at the average rating of all of their gear pieces, which is what they're talking about introducing.
Hmm.
So yeah, is there an opportunity for friction or non-optimal behavior because people are judging based just on item level? So eye
Maybe.
level
I
being
don't
the
know.
short way of saying item level.
I mean, people might be used to it from other games and, just ex it may be very smooth, but I think it will be a transition.
Yep. And it does, and you're right, it does change the game slightly.
I
Now,
mean, when you hear people advertise, I mean, asking in general, because they're building a team for ops or whatever, they would be able to say, must have 242 or something, which maybe they'd say that now. Um, but this would make it an easy way to find out.
right. So that's an interesting aspect of this that I hope they're thinking through. The other part of it is while so the positive part of it is random, people that are queuing with random other players in a queue to try to get into a master mode flashpoint. It is frustrating if you get people that are clearly
Hmm.
undergeared and maybe just mistakenly queued into the queue. So this will give people an idea of here's where you really should be if you're going to try to get into this. And if you queue up with people to get into master mode flashpoints, you should have a certain gear level that you'll be able to count on if you're gonna get into that. The,
Maybe they'll say, maybe you'll just find out when you try to queue, it'll say, no, you need higher level gear. But you would just be shotgunning it at that point. Like, well, maybe, whereas if you had this number and when you changed out gear, you could see it change, then you'd have a goal to work toward, which, MMO players like those goals.
right. On the flip side, one clear piece of feedback that I did see in the thread, and I do somewhat agree with, is we're on Jedi Covenant. Harbinger doesn't have this problem, but other servers potentially do have the problem where already the queues are not all that quick to get into any sort of flashpoint, so you could queue up for a flashpoint. If you're putting another barrier to filling the queues, there's a huge opportunity for those master mode flashpoints then just to never pop in the queues, or for the queue to be really really long for master mode flashpoints. That's potentially a problem as well. You're sort of dividing up the queue. You're putting additional barriers into filling that queue. Now, if you were filling that queue with people that weren't really qualified and couldn't get through the flashpoint anyway, then maybe it's no worse than it was before. But I think that's a valid concern. But I would hope for, although we've hoped for years, for other ways to solve that problem, which would be better ways to fill those queues however they can go about doing it. And I don't know what that is, and I don't want to say cross server queuing because we know that doesn't exist.
I don't know. I think I think it could be a positive thing. I would not say don't do it. But, it might take some time for the community to settle down.
And just to wrap up on this point, is 242 too high? Potentially. I think many players would agree, especially high-end players would agree that you don't need 242 gear to do Master Mode Flashpoints. I think BioWare has already gotten that feedback, and from the follow-up post by Keith, it sounds like they're already looking at potentially making that limit slightly lower than 242, even if they go forward with trying to put this limit in. I think that's appropriate. I think 242 is probably a little bit too high, for one. For two, I don't remember exactly the rewards you're getting from Master Mode Flashpoints besides Command XP, which is valuable. But what I hate, just a little pet peeve of mine, is if I need 242 to go run the thing and the best it drops is like 236 gear, that
Yeah.
that bothers me.
Right.
So
That's upside down.
and I doubt that I'm pretty sure that Master Mode Flashpoints do not drop 246 gear. So at best they're dropping, 240, 242, if even. So that could be a little frustrating if you say I can't even go in there until I have gear that exceeds the rewards of what's dropping in that flashpoint. That would be frustrating to me. All right. Enough about that. What else did Keith announce that might be
So
interesting
a
coming?
new stronghold. There's going to be a stronghold on Umbara. The teaser he mentioned about it is you'll get to decorate your own moving train.
Yes. That sounds
Oh, and
interesting.
also to get the stronghold, you have to run the flashpoint a few times. So there's a requirement for the stronghold, which I think is an interesting wrinkle.
That is so. Yeah, a couple interesting things that they threw out. Again, no details. So this is just a highlight, a preview, a teaser. So this is an opportunity for you and I, Seema, to do our irresponsible speculation. But yeah, and I think a lot of people in all of the threads and all the feedback was, this sounds interesting. I don't know why we're getting another new stronghold right, this soon. But beside that, a moving stronghold. So is it like the scenery moves and I have a train that I decorate, or does the train actually move, or is it a stronghold where there's a train like driving around the outside? I don't know what the whole deal is with that, for one. And for
I kind of picture like how the monorail is on Corellia.
yeah,
It kind of goes from section to section, but I can't get that picture out of my mind of like those little toy trains that go around like in restaurants where they go around the wall.
yeah. So I love the monorails on Corellia. I think those are really cool. So do you think it would be like an instanced area where you're in one of those kind of monorail things, and you can decorate the whole inside of the monorail, and it just
I
sort of
think you
like
could
drives
put
in a set, sort of like outside.
you
And
could
you
move
can't
some
get
of your
outside of it anymore.
chairs into your monorail.
Monorail chairs.
Or have you used up all your chairs?
Yeah, you can always get more chairs.
Yeah,
I have an
so
infinite supply of chairs.
that's how I'm picturing it. And you can put that, if it's big enough, you can put that prison thing in there and have somebody trapped in your monorail.
So I would imagine you can put lots of. I mean, they've got to have enough hooks that you can do lots of things. Are you going to have a starship hook? I mean, is it going to be big enough that you can have like that kind of thing? Is it going to be like a really big train, or is it a little train? I don't know. And then what about this whole thing about you need to complete the flashpoint a few times to gain access to the stronghold? Do you think that's going to
Yeah,
be you do the flashpoint and you get the access for free, or that unlocks it and then you can pay for it? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I think it unlocks it and then you can pay for it. I also think I'm okay with this as a concept, and I'm interested to see how, people react to it and how it works out. But one of the things about progressing and gaining ground in an MMO is that oftentimes it's layered. It takes, you got to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I think the more of that they do, the better. So like we were coming off the story time where everything was very tunnel. You just go down the list of the story. You go down the story, the line of the story, and then you come out the far end. I like this, like, well, if you want this stronghold, you have to do this flashpoint first. And if you want this stronghold, you have to come up with 15 million credits or whatever.
I think it would be
Some,
pretty cool if you did the. I think it would be really cool if you did enough in game that you got the flashpoint unlocked for free. Maybe that's
you
not
mean
the
the
direction.
stronghold?
You did enough of the flashpoint or whatever that you get the stronghold unlocked for free. I think that would be a really cool way to get the stronghold unlocked. Even if you had to pay credits, I would expect maybe you unlock more cars out of this train or whatever. But that would be a cool thing that we haven't had a ton of recently in the game, where you're getting things in the game, big bits of, sort of rewards that you're unlocking by doing in-game content. Although we can't say we've had none of those. As we saw tonight, the deco, we had the Sisters deco that dropped. Those are some really cool things. That kind of thing is still dropping in the game for free. You don't have to pay credits or cartel coins to unlock that kind of stuff. I do like the idea, though, of having a stronghold just unlock because you did enough work in the game to make it happen. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, running a flashpoint a few times though doesn't seem like very much. Of course, once we get into it, maybe there's certain goals you have to meet. Maybe the reason he says a few times is because you have to collect, 1,100 Twi'lek socks or something.
2,500 Iocath shards, so you can run
Yeah.
around as.
Oh my
as
gosh.
type.
Yeah. I hope it's not that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a good question. I think this is the second most interesting thing that they talked about and dropped into the roadmap so far. So what else is in the roadmap? I think. Yeah, go ahead. This next
Well, I'm
one.
looking forward to seeing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what these new hairstyles actually look like. But so the item is obviously that. Well, first of all, that Senya can have her weapons and armor customized, so she's the next companion that you can do that with. But I'm talking about that you can get the hairstyles of Lana, Koth, and Senya to purchase to customize your character, which I assume from the machine.
Yep.
The customization machine.
So character customization. This does seem to be very interesting to quite a few people. Many people are asking the question of, for I guess hairstyle's a big thing. You're telling me I can get Lana's hairstyle. However, Lana has had multiple hairstyles. So,
well, yeah. And the thing that I thought of is I had to change my hairstyle on Seema because after one patch, whenever she would jump, she was bald. Like the hair would flop up and she would be bald. Is Lana's hair going to be like that?
Right, that would be terrible.
Yeah.
Especially if you paid to unlock it. And then when you jumped up and down, you had a bald patch underneath the back of your hair. So I agree.
Not good.
That would be terrible. The other thing I noticed, and there was quite a bit of feedback, is, yeah, we get that Senya and Koth will be able to be, or just Senya will be able to be customized. So she's added to the list of customizable endgame characters, because right now she has just her armor on, which I really like. I really like her armor. So I don't think I'll be customizing her. But her weapons will also be able to be customized. And the key question there, and I think the thing that would excite a lot of people would be, does she get to wield her saber staff. So if you pull her out now as a companion, all she gets is a lightsaber, not her iconic saber staff as a weapon.
Yeah,
So that would be
she needs
cool.
a saber staff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, this next one got my attention. Companions can now be summoned while moving.
Yeah. You like that idea?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I poo-pooed it when they introduced it with vehicles, and now I really love that feature. So, yeah, I like the idea of I can just run off, and while I'm running off, I can summon. Well, I won't say Koth, because
I
there's
don't. And I never
nobody
summon
summons Koth, right?
Koth. Nobody summons Koth. No, I summon my dog, and I summon Nico Okar because he's my drinking companion. But I never summon Koth. Yeah, I like this just as a, just as a little side thing. I don't think you can summon a companion while in combat. And that's the addition that I would like. Because, and this still exists, it's a little bit of a bug, but there's multiple places in the game where if your companion gets desummoned, or you zone, or you take an elevator, or something happens and you don't have a companion, you can end up in combat without your companion. Which, if you're trying to like solo a flashpoint or something,
Right.
that
Or if you
can
just
get quite
want to
dangerous.
get on with things, right? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if in addition to this I could summon while in combat and just get my companion back, that would be most interesting to me. So yeah, so Smoke in the chat room mentions Star Fortress. It's a big problem because there's multiple points in the Star Fortress flashpoint where you're supposed to be doing it solo and your companion despawns or disappears in between you moving from place to place. And if you're not watching where that is, or you're not noticing it, you will get in combat, potentially even with a boss at the bottom of one of the elevators, and not have your companion around to heal you, but you're trying to solo this flashpoint. So that can be frustrating. Okay, so there's that one.
They.
Yeah, graphics settings.
I don't know what I think about that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I mean, I have an okay graphics card, so I would probably play around with it and see if I could do this. But it's upgrading the realism of contrast and shadows. So I would just have to play with it to see what that means to me, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not dissatisfied with the graphics quality as it stands right now. But sure, if they can continue to add those kinds of things in. I know there's this opened up a lot of speculation in a lot of the feedback around, well, what about going to DX11 or DirectX 12 or upgrading the hero engine and getting better performance, because we still get situations where the performance, especially if the performance isn't tuned, we can get really bad performance in some of the fights for some people depending on their graphics quality. It's an interesting ball of wax if they want to get into that and be upgrading graphics, performance, and quality overall. I'd love to see that over time. So yeah, I'll see what this does and see where they go from here. I guess I'm open to it. I don't have a NVIDIA 1080. In fact, it's pretty hard to get one these days, unless you're I think what I heard is all the various blockchain miners, not just Bitcoin, but Ethereum and all the other blockchain miners have bought up all of the GPU-based graphics cards, NVIDIA 1070s and 1080s, so they're all off the market right now. So you may not have even the opportunity to get a better graphics card right now if you don't have it. But if you do have one of those already, then having this kind of thing, especially if you've got something like a 1080, then this may be a welcome upgrade for you, and turn more of these things on and have a little bit better graphics settings would certainly be welcome. Okay, what's the next can of worms, Seema? And this one certainly was a can of worms.
Yes, this one is a can of worms. So class balance. So they named who they were going to be, who's going to get the next chunk of changes. And the details for each one will follow in the next few weeks. So one at a time, I'm assuming, like they did before. So that includes lethality or ruffian, concealment, scrapper, medicine, sawbones, fury, concentration, and carnage, combat.
Yes. So this opened up a huge opportunity, and definitely in a good way, as well as non-good ways, but a huge opportunity for people to say, so what does this mean for these classes? Does it, which ones are going to get buffed and which ones are going to get nerfed, and what is that going to end up as? The non-useful part of this feedback at this moment is, well, I see you haven't nerfed mercenaries, defensive cooldown utilities yet. You're terrible, and you have no idea what's going on. Okay.
Right.
So to be clear, they have a series of posts where they're talking about what they're doing in terms of class balance and what's going to happen first and what's going to happen next. And the first thing they're going to go do is try to retune all of the classes, all of the specs to be aligned with what their goals are for each of the spec, which is if you're melee burst, then you should be at a 2.5% above the average. If you're melee sustained, you should be 5% above the average. If you're ranged burst, you should be 5% below the average. If you're ranged sustained, you should be 2.5% below the average. And they have this whole calculus of where all the specs should sort of be, and they're going to be caring about the healing per second and the DPS per second of all the specs first. Then they'll go through and take a look at utilities. So if your preferred class isn't on here yet, they may be still getting to it, like Lightning Zorks. If you're still complaining because mercs are too hard to kill and you think you should be able to kill a merc in 0.7 seconds and it's taking you 1.9 seconds in PvP and you want their defensive cooldowns nerfed, that's a second round of things after they already nerfed mercs DPS, they already nerfed mercs damage. They'll look at nerfs defensive cooldowns, so mercs will be the worst thing ever pretty soon, but you don't need to worry about that yet. But that's all beside the point. So this is a highlight of what they're looking at so far. These are some of the things next on the list. To be clear, that doesn't mean that this is all that's on the list, for one, and for two, that doesn't mean that this isn't what comes next, which is nerfing mercs to the ground. You'll get that, but it won't necessarily come in 5.4. It won't necessarily come in this next roadmap until they get done with their first round of balancing of all of the DPS and healing per second of all the classes. So there's that.
Yes.
There is really good discussion in the thread, though, about if you look at some of the disciplines and the specs, what will they do? What would be optimal for mercenaries? For concentration versus fury. In fury, concentration versus the other specs, and sustain versus burst. What really is bursty? What's sustained? There's good nuanced discussion going on in some of the threads around that, and I would encourage continuing to have those discussions and getting the class designers to be able to see that. To make sure that they don't pull any of the levers too far for your classes. So that's fine. So you're looking forward to more mercenary nerfs, Seema?
Well, it's not listed on here.
It is not. It is not, and I don't think
So
it's
I'm
required.
feeling pretty smug, man. Yeah, no. Yeah, I like, we don't know if these are nerfs or buffs to begin with, unless I think the people who play these classes a lot or who play against them a lot probably know.
Right.
But I don't.
Right. So we'll see how that goes in terms of what's next on the list. But yes, don't be worried yet about the utilities because that's not even in scope at this point. It will be in the future, but it's not yet. All right, PvPers. Season 8 will be coming to an end. It will be coming to an end at 5.4. So August 22nd will be the end of Season 8 of PvP. One thing, and I think this is a valid complaint, they have not yet announced what the top rewards will be exactly. They said the top rewards will include an interesting weapon set and an Ember Macrin mount. So the Macrin are the sort of the six-legged spider-like creatures that you can ride. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
An Ember
Spider-like,
Macrin mount. Yeah.
plant-like,
Yeah.
plant-like, spider-like.
Like a plant, like an ent, a spider ent.
Yes.
But all of the Ember mounts definitely have a little bit of animation associated with them. They have sort of like the glowing ember effects. So I expect that's going to look cool. I can envision that. The thing we don't know about is the weapon set, for example. A lot of the PvPers are saying, you really got to tell us what the tiers are and what the weapon rewards are really going to be. I need to know that longer than 2 weeks or 1 week before the season's going to end. Because if I need to get into a higher tier, I'll do some hardcore ranked PvP to get
Right.
myself to that tier if I really want to.
And this has been a recurring
Yeah.
issue. I'm not sure if they have a reluctance to say what it is or they just haven't designed the rewards yet.
Yeah, I don't know. So
Because I remember it hit you with the weapons on fire way back, like 2 years ago.
Yep. If I had known sooner, I would have had weapons on fire instead of my current weapons, which are only a little bit on fire, which would have been
That's
awesome.
right.
I want weapons on fire. That's my favorite thing. So yeah, that's a valid concern, and so hopefully they'll rectify that as quickly as they can before, and not wait weeks, but hopefully, do a confirmation in week or so. So we'll see. And finally, they're making changes to daily and weekly mission rewards for PvP with the intent of getting a better rate of gaining unassembled components. And I think that's fine. Unassembled components are the main way that PvPers get unassembled pieces. So you have to build up enough unassembled components to get a piece, and you trade in those unassembled components to get that unassembled piece. PvE players get those unassembled pieces from ops bosses. In PvP, you want to be getting those pieces as quickly as possible because that gear differential in PvP does make a difference, especially if you're in ranked PvP and you're trying to gear up a new character. So I get that you want as rapid as possible. I don't think it's as necessary in PvE. I think there's lots of ways to get your PvE gear, and I think the rate is not bad right now. I think there's still a concern and a challenge around the command XP rank across your legacy if you want to start moving to different characters. So as soon as my mercenary is completely terrible and completely useless, I may want to switch to another character. And in doing that, it's going to be quite painful because my mercenary is command rank 300, and my Sork, who is the second character that I like to PvP on, is only at command rank 90. That's going to be frustrating. So we'll see. I'm glad they're increasing the rate of unassembled components or smoothing out that gain of those pieces. I'm still agree with the feedback that command rank being legacy wide would be really a cool thing.
Right.
Addition.
Right.
All right. So just to sum it up, Seema, do you want to say any notes about what Keith did in his? We've sort of peppered in a lot of the feedback in the thread, but then Keith replied to some of that feedback a little bit, sort of in the middle of that forum thread.
So I guess I want to ask you, Max, a question. It's like, what do you think about? I feel like Keith is sort of putting himself out there by making posts like this. Like the information is not all available, but he's giving us, what he knows, and he's standing up before the crowd and he's taking his blows basically for it. So I don't know. I think it's brave.
I think it's brave. Yeah, I think it definitely is. And I think so. There's two places where we've seen sort of the bulk of the feedback. There was feedback on Reddit, which was relatively calm and and collected and constructive, and there was positive and negative feedback, but not very negative. In the forums, it was much more negative. There was a significant number of players saying, I've unsubscribed and I'm quitting this game because you guys are terrible. And plenty of players, plenty of people saying, well, it's obvious that they don't even play this game, which we know is not
Right.
true. It's completely non-factual. So, yes, I think you're absolutely right. Keith put himself out there, said, I'm going to give you some highlights. I'm going to put some of this stuff out there. We're trying to listen to feedback. We're trying to do our job here. We're doing a lot of things. We've got a lot of work going on, but here's some highlights. The other alternative was Keith could say nothing, and then he would still
Right.
get criticized, but the criticism would be one point of criticism, which would be you don't communicate enough. And he could say, okay, well, I'm going to try to communicate more. I'll give you communication in a few weeks. Instead, he gave an early bit of communication and got hammered with a bunch of people saying, "Oh, you're stupid, you're morons, and and this is all terrible." Now, it wasn't all that, and I think they can. It already seems like they're reading through a bunch of that. I prefer this style of communication. Let's do more information up front. Let's hear more of the direction. Whether or not I like it, let me hear the direction. Let me see where it's going. Give me time to consume that and think about it and hear what's going on. More communication, I think, is always better. I think, though, people need to understand that if you're going to want more communication, you have to be ready for and accept and cut them some slack when they're giving you an incomplete picture. Because that's what you asked for. You asked for an incomplete picture. You asked for previews. You asked for highlights. Here's what's coming. Not, I want perfect information and I want it now. I want to know the next 10 years of the roadmap in exquisite detail, and I want it now. That's not possible. It's not going to happen. It's impossible. Don't ask for it. So think about what you're asking for, and then, react to in an appropriate way to what you've asked for. Am I wrong?
I think no, not at all. I just when I think about it, I think about the previous producers, and I don't mean just Ben Irving, had more of a attitude of, well, I'm not going to say anything because if I can't meet that promise, then I'll be criticized. And I think what Keith is doing is turning that on its head and is saying the only way to break down this gap between the community and BioWare is to jump into that gap and start taking the bullets, And I think over time, the bullets will get less and less, just because when there's no communication and there's a vacuum, it's human nature, not just regular nature, but human nature abhors a vacuum, and they speculate, and it goes back and forth, and you the upsetness grows. And I think with some coming in from the other side too, there will just over time it will improve, maybe slowly, and maybe I'm being, over hopeful, but I think it'll improve the tenor of the posts and stuff on the official forums.
I would hope so. Although I think we've seen a little bit of a downturn in the negative direction.
I do too.
I mean, people were cutting Keith a lot of slack in the beginning because he was new and because he was communicating and in a good way. And I agree. And those were all the right reasons to be liking Keith. Now Keith's continued to keep that up, but the honeymoon period is a little bit over, is what it seems like, unfortunately.
I think so too. But I just hope he, keeps it up, even
Keeps
though
his
it's
chin up.
getting tougher. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think yeah, there was the honeymoon, and now this is like the first fight.
Yeah.
I'm stretching the analogy too far, but yeah, I think it gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah. So thank you, Keith. Keep your chin up, bro. You're doing a good job. I like the extra communication, and we know we'll never satisfy all of the people all the time, but maybe we'll satisfy some of the people some of the time. So there we go. All right. So that was our speculation and review of that roadmap. Hopefully we'll get the full roadmap before long, and we'll be looking forward to 5.4 on August 22nd. But for now, I think that's a good review of what we've got so far, and we'll think about it.
Maybe one day I'll exchange my ponytail for a Lana hairdo. We'll see. You never know.
I like Lana's hairdos, so yeah, that's good stuff. All right, so with that, I think our EPC 204 droid is ready to head out, and also look forward to and keep an eye out for the next set of roadmaps. Thanks to all of you for joining us on newoverlords.com, on iTunes, YouTube, or live on Twitch. We will stream again next Thursday night on twitch.tv/newoverlords around 10:30 p.m. Central. Please follow us on Twitter at MaxTheGray and at AIE Seema. Please subscribe on YouTube. And most importantly, please come find us on Jedi Covenant and ask us for an AIE Guild invite, because we would love to have you in our guild. And we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.